Welcome back to Kamen Rider Review, episode number 49. This one I'm discussing episodes 18 to 21 of Kamen Rider Stronger. 18 and 19 are unique basically because they're still part of the ghost story stuff. Now, in the case of episode 19, the most interesting thing about this one is that apparently General Shell can use the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Yep. Make copies himself. Yeah. That's the most interesting related to the episode. Now, in the case of the monsters for these 4 episodes, we have Deniki, a stingray monster. We have Dogoma, a toad monster. We have Arju, an ant lion, which is a bug. And Shark, who is a shark monster. Yep. Excuse me. In the case of 19, mostly put the whole purpose of that one is to keep people away from a castle. If anybody goes there, they're immediately killed. Yeah. Aside from that, nothing else interesting about that one. Well, and the Chakra and Jutsu stuff. Interesting though, we have 3 straight ghost episodes, and the first one is Return of Titan, who does a little bit more. And General Show you see in the show, he's basically just there, and he basically just fights Kamen here and there. That's it. 20 is basically something interesting, though. It's basically a 1-1 fight between Stronger and Titan in the middle of the desert. I'm not kidding about this. The desert. Now, I believe the last time officially in Kamen they ever showed a desert in the series was actually, believe it or not, toward the end of the real Shocker era for the first Kamen Rider series. That was actually toward the end of the third story arc for the series. Because V3 didn't have a desert episode. I know X didn't, and definitely not Amazon. Just this one. So apparently Black Satan have got a base in the desert. Typical bad guy motif. Yes, and apparently this is an episode where we have the actor Tish Tabata playing a different character. And heck, even the character sounds very similar name and appearance. And heck, these two know each other basically about that. Aside from the fact these two are played with obviously the same actor, now you're probably thinking, okay, are these two related? No, they never say they are. It's just basically kind of odd, and it just not really explained very well. Aside from the fact it's the same actor, it's interesting though I got a chance to see him play a different character. I was going to get praised totally for that one, to have him play a different character. I think it was an episode, I believe it was 19, we actually, when Taco gets captured, we have the standard, 50 style villain of strapping her to a log and basically trying to cut her in half before she's able to Kamen Rider Stronger. Yeah, she's basically screaming for him. Eventually, she does rescue her. Now, that is classic villain fare. Now, that's usually done in cartoon. This is live action. And the saw is usually like a circular saw. This is more like a rectangular saw. You usually don't. Now, what I can tell, anyways. Now you might be thinking, a lot of the time, usually when they think of these saws, they saw these logs in half. A lot of times use circular saws? A lot of the time, no. I've seen logs chopped in half with freaking chainsaws. Yes. But in the case of this particular saw, it's kind of weird you find this in a sawmill of all places. Have you been to a sawmill? No, I haven't. But it's quite interesting. Usually these are like very thin blades. I know because I've actually held one of these things. My grandpa had one. The blades are very thin. And they're basically the size. Think of this blade as like a very long knife. That is seriously what this damn thing is. It's a freaking long knife. That's meant to slice one way, just slice right in half, just serves its purpose. And now in cartoon, to basically have the woman who's tied or release the person, when it's tied, they basically get the person to face the ceiling. This one has it where she's tied face down, well, basically belly down, but she can see the blade, or she's screaming for Stronger the whole time. Interesting that they put this point of peril for her. Excuse me. In the case of... Oh, by the way, is the base destroyed by the end of episode 21? Well, the base they were using in the episode, yes. I don't know if this was the same base they've been using ever since they started this series. Unknown, because it's virtually the same set. Now, I know the original Kamen Rider series was notorious for using the same set for a lot of episodes. They didn't finally change the interior of the Shocker bases until Ambassador Hell showed up. Because even when Dr. Death showed up in the series, it was the same exact interior. Here, it's probably very similar. I'm glad they go back to the interior stuff that they were particularly using, because Amazon very rarely had a very scientific one. Because I like when you use science stuff. The magic stuff was weird. They had for the first villain group, and the second group actually had more still kind of magic, but I love the interior of their base. It looks like it's made of granite stone. This one basically, now this is more of a style we saw back in V3. Not much in X per se, but definitely in V3. That's probably the last time we saw a base interior of this design. Because I think after V3, they very rarely ever have base interiors ever shown. Here, I'd say of the 21 episodes, I think you have it's where the base interior doesn't really appear very much. As a matter of fact, you don't really see the symbol, which I'm glad we go back to this when we show the leader. We have the leader of the organization hid behind some voice box. Yes, I like this stuff when it comes to Kamen Rider, and I'm glad the fact they went back to this, because basically this has been missing for quite a while. I would probably say the last time we had this, like in the case of the base interior, was V3, because last two, no, not really. And of course, a lot of the time, we actually still have it where Shadow and Titan are constantly bickering each other over interfering in each other's affairs. That's most of what it is. And apparently, the leader of Black Sea has more favoritism toward Titan than he does General Shadow, because Titan is basically probably more a prestige executive and basically cares about his parents. General Shadow doesn't give a damn about his parents. Yeah. In the case of 21, the episode I just finished watching, this mostly involves basically basically the monster of the episode doesn't really do anything at all. A lot of it is simply looking for this boy's mom who got kidnapped by the shark monster. And you might think, was the boy brainwashed when he brought Joe and Yuko down? No, surprisingly, he was not brainwashed. He just escaped. But the mother was basically captured. So they eventually have it where, he's going to be have a little, let's have the spinning saw back before we try to saw him in half. I'm like, really? We're using cartoonish style traps for this, though this does look deadly. And putting Yuko in an iron lung, though this time shaped like an iron coffin. The iron lung was a torture device from medieval times, so this is basically shaped like a coffin with spikes that do in fact bleed. I have seen pictures of these iron lungs. These things do in fact exist. They're mostly torture devices. That's most what they're there for. The one series that uses a lot was Shaman King, where Iron Man Genie would be in this thing and she'd come out basically bleeding like crazy. Like she was on the verge of having for basically her spirit partner. Yep, and of course they escape, and of course trap in the hole, and of course they get out of the base, and of course they battle on a ship. Yes, a ship. And we have an underwater fight sequence, and typical Toei, it looks like a cheap set. The underwater scene where you have the characters walking around, at least they're wearing breathable things, not like the way it was in Dynamite, that was a decade later. The only thing that was underwater, the bubble effect. That's the only way you can tell you're underwater. Because this clearly looks like a filter. It looks like it looks like a set that was filtered. That was basically have a filter over the camera. That's literally what this thing looks like to me. Now, unlike the interiors they have for the bases, they look really good. I like those. This doesn't look very good. It's a good thing that Toei doesn't go into the underwater stuff very much. Yeah, though I think in the previous stuff when they do the underwater fight sequence, they look really good. But when they get to the ocean floor, it looks like a set. Now, you might think, oh, maybe it's a tank, per se, because sometimes they shoot things in tanks. Yes, but when they have fights on the ocean floor, it looks like a freaking set. Yep. But not much else to say. These episodes are pretty good, per se. And get this, we're only 5 episodes away from wrapping up the Black Satan saga for Kamen Stronger. And overall, for the whole series, there's 18 episodes left to go. You probably think, would it continue after 26? I'm going to basically put the series on hold at that point, just so I can do JoJo, Bizarre Adventure, Stone Ocean, for a second batch of episodes, and then get back to this to basically cap it off, okay? But yeah, so that's going to be pretty much episode review. Next up is going to be a comic corner, and I'll do One Piece afterwards, okay? Next video. Bye.